Keep a fire burning red in a Georgia representing for Kams Tv. Big up Kidaki, Buxton Massive.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. I know what you conniving money, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. You can keep your conniving money when you've been a corrupt. Tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, you know been tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. Now don't want you conniving money. Neighbor joker, neighbor joker, neighbor joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill the piece. A 2 pound note and a kill the piece. A 2 pound note and a kill the piece. That's all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
working against our best interests. We have to make the managers of those agencies stop and think. You have to make them stop and think. How do you make Claudette Singh stop and think? How do you make the administrative staff of GECOM stop and think? How do you make Vishnu Prasad as Chief Elections Officer stop and think? Do you realize Vishnu Prasad was pushing ahead with the local government elections without properly identifying the residents of these localities and so on? Carol Smith Joseph went to court and caused him pause. That's action. That's action. But while you're fighting that in court, the minister, so-called, of local government decides we are going to change the boundaries. Because if we can't rig this election one way because Carol Smith Joseph went to court, we're going to rig it the other way, we're going to change the boundaries. And when that was challenged, they admit, okay, the minister doesn't have the right to change the boundaries. Only GECOM could do that. And so they went to GECOM and the chairperson says, y'all go there and verify that the boundaries that the minister wanted changed could be changed. Verify that the boundaries the minister wanted changed could be changed. And then a report comes back and say, yeah, these changes will be okay. This change will be okay. And so the minister has gotten what he wants. And so the rigging of the elections will take place, like it or not. Whether Carol Smith Joseph went to court or not, the rigging machinery is set in place. How do you upset that? How do you upset that? By causing Vishnu Prasad and Claudette Singh and so on to start thinking, to stop and think. I'm going to tell you how we can make it stop and think. It sounds like terrorism. Every time you see a GECOM working, you run them out. If GECOM can't do its work, elections can't be held. I'm very serious. If GECOM cannot do its work, elections can't be held. Y'all remember. And these are nothing new, you know. I'm just blatant about the way I speak about them. When the coalition was in office attempting to do house registration, what happened? Again, you have 2 minutes to answer the question. What happened? When the coalition was in government and were attempting to do house registration, y'all remember what happened? 1 minute left. Who can tell me? I want somebody to tell me. Say, I will know if you are really paying attention to what has happened in this country and what will continue to happen in this country. And so understand that what I'm saying, the recommendations I'm making are not new. I don't have intellectual ownership of them. I see two answers. I prefer the one from Simon Blackman. They ran them out of the Indian villages. They ran them out of the Indian villages. The Indo-Guyanese refused to cooperate with GECOM workers who were doing house-to-house registration. Dogs were loosed in some of them. Y'all remember that? Dogs were loosed in some of them. And so, let me talk this thing. Why the foot, the boots, and the other foot now nobody ain't doing nothing but it? Jagdeo could say, run them out. And the Indo communities could respond by not cooperating with GECOM workers. Why can't we take a position of non-cooperation now that the boots are on the other feet? Every time you see a GECOM worker come to do work, chase them. I'm not saying harm them, you know. Chase them. Some of them might gotta be threatened with harm to know that they gotta go about their merry business. But just send them about their merry business. That's political action. That is standing in defense of your democracy. And so when I talk about changing boundaries, how these boundaries are changing, I don't know how the boundaries are changing. I average it's not just a paper change. Some work has to be done on the ground to verify people's address and shift them around the thing. Nobody cooperates. If you don't cooperate, I will change it. I don't know. That's my mentality. If you don't cooperate, I will change it. Y'all tell me. But to just sit and have a conversation every day, the PPP is doing this, the PPP is doing that. What is a counter to what the PPP is doing? For me, we must adapt the position of non-cooperation. For me, we must be disruptive. We must be disruptive. We must make something rise from the ashes like the phoenix. Listen, can you imagine the amount of chaos you would create in this society if GECOM has to reconstruct all the records in all of these local area offices that they have? Huh? Because of water damage or something? Shirley Williams, I talking all the time, but like you listening. You just come from behind the class and come close to the teacher. Huh? Can you imagine if there was supposed to be an electrical surge that damages critical equipment at all of these local registration offices? How much work has to go into fixing them up? I'm just asking these questions. They might label me a terrorist. Madness is when you do the same thing every day and expect a different result. See, I'll decide who mad. But I am saying that with this attitude, this discussion, this strategizing, this educating that we're doing, we giving the PPP leverage for 50 years in power, maybe 100 years. Because they recognize and they're very happy that when we are strategizing, they are actually implementing their strategies. And so by the time we catch up with them, they are way ahead of us. So let's get a fair start. You know, there's cause some when you're running around or when you're doing athletics and somebody jumps out the starting block before everybody, they say what? Fast start. Everybody will come back to the finishing line. Let us level the playing field. Level. Let us level the playing field. Let everybody get an equal start. Let us start together. I know the accusations that are going to come. But you think I'm concerned about them accusations? I'm not concerned about them because the PPP is not concerned about any accusations that we make against it. What they're concerned about is lining up their people to sell their ideas, to sell their party beliefs, to sell their governance, to sell their political party. And we have to do the same thing. We have to stop thinking about what the other side thinks. We have to take actions that are in our best interest. We have to take, and for me, what is in our best interest is political action. I think we have had enough political education. There's a difference to me in political education and political action. Winnie Mandela was taking political action, while other people are doing political education. Right? I want to show you something. I hope I can find the clip and find it quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on that. I did tell you all I was going to discuss Freddie Kissoon and Glenn Lal this morning. It looked like I got Glenn Lal queued. Let me see if I find where Glenn Lal is queued. Because I want you to hear from Glenn Lal, not from me, who Freddie Kissoon is, and why it is we can't necessarily dismiss Freddie Kissoon as a madman. Right?
The fire burning red in a Georgia representing for Kams Tv. Big up Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you going like you like Kams son. Red. Kams Tv son. You burn this swine when no want you shine. The tree of life, them no want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Kams I say them heart no kind. Buxton massive. Kidaki. Red that. Oh, one more, hold on, one more. Keep a fire burning red, Georgia representing for Kams Tv son. Red.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money, never, money, never, money, money, never, money, money, I know what you can even money. You can even money when you've been a corruption. In a bill, tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill, tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never, money, never, money, money, never, money, money. Now know what you can even money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me work for. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. This is all the money that me work for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I know what you can even money. Oh, Joseph.
Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 3 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour on the 8th day of February in the year 2023. Yes, it's the 8th of February 2023. And it is now 4 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. You're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. I'm your host, the BUXTONIAN, Kidaki Amsterdam. Share the live. I know you are surprised to see me on at 4 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. But today is the 8th of February. What's the significance of today's date? I'm going to court today. Yes, I'm going to court today. Good? Today's court day, so I can't be here until 9 o'clock, as you know. And so I wanted to start early. I'm supposed to have a discussion with Professor David Hines. But I think he too might be surprised that I'm on this early. Because I'm trying to get to him and I'm not getting to him. How have you been, though? That's the question. How have you been? I always have to inquire about the well-being of my people. Because all of what we're doing doesn't matter. Or wouldn't matter if it weren't for the people. Right? If you're not well, if you're not alive, then all that we're doing is in vain. Like I usually say, and I've told people time and time again, when they said David Granger government didn't do anything for African Guyanese, they said for you to enjoy the good life, the first thing that has to happen is that you got to be alive. The Granger administration kept people alive, kept Afro-Guyanese especially alive, because it came to office at a time when Afro-Guyanese were being hunted and murdered, extrajudicially killed, and wiped off the face of the earth by the elements of the PPP. The PPP's killer squad, whether you call them black clothes, blue clothes, phantom squad, killer squad, dead squad, whatever you call them, Afro-Guyanese were an endangered species while the PPP was in government when the coalition took office. That was what was happening at the time. And so the Granger government did keep us alive. Right? They keep us alive. And so you know that they did something for us. Don't let people fool you. Right? One of the best acknowledgement of what the coalition government did for black people came from a farmer from the BUXTONIAN community a couple Sundays ago. He was on my bridge. We were talking. And was it raining? Yes, I think a heavy rain started. Or we had a previous heavy rain, and he said, you know, if it weren't for those pumps that were installed under the coalition government, we would have been underwater. Our farmlands would have been under continuous water. And we would have really suffered economically because of the loss that would have resulted. And he broke it down. He said, my word, because I can't remember exactly, it's stupidity on the part of all of those who said that the government did nothing for us because they didn't get cash in hand. But avenues were created for them to make cash and to keep cash. Right? So, like I usually say, it's important to recognize, as they say, come to blessings one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Right? That's a good Christian song here. But I usually quote these songs because sometimes they have so much application, so much suitability to our life. They help to enrich our lives. If we only reflect on some of these sayings, some of these poetry and songs and narratives and so on, we get a lot of wisdom out of them. When you look at the holistic picture, it looks difficult. It looks like nothing really happened for you, or nothing was happening for you, or nothing will happen for you. But when you take it apart, one step at a time, one chapter of your life at a time, one day at a time, sweet Jesus, they say, you come to realize how much has happened, how far you've come along. And so my encouragement this morning is take your time and peel your privacy. Take your time and examine where you came from and where you are. Good? And while doing that, also decide where you want to get to. In short, chart a course. I'm at point A. I was at point A, I've moved to point B, I want to get to Z. How do I get from this point where I am to Z? So many of us sit back and we say, listen, the opposition taking a beating, the opposition ain't making sense. I see we taking a beating again. This Bonnie is Norman Brown or Eglin Grooms, or both of them. They really got it out from the RB, man. Right? They really got it out for RB. As the song said, blame it on the rain, it was falling. Everything that is not right politically in this country, everything that is wrong with governance in this country is thrown at the feet of Aubrey Norton. Well, Aubrey signed up for the job, so I guess he gotta get it done. But what do we do as citizens? What do we do as political actors? Just wait for the leader? It can't be. It ought not to be. I will never endorse it. We have to play our part. We have to take political action. We have to undermine the government. We have to stymie the works of the oppressors. Some people say it's bad strategy to tell you strategy on these programs. What if the only way I'm reaching to you is through these programs? That is the only way I'll be able to communicate with you. Do you imagine, and I hope this is not misconstrued, but I continuously say education changes behavior, or is supposed to result in behavioral change. And from my readings, right, I came to realize that a lot of the people back in the days of Al-Qaeda, I don't even know if Al-Qaeda is still active, right? But all of these terrorist networks around the world and so on, or at least those networks which have been labeled terroristic by the U.S. government, because the U.S. decides who is a terrorist, you know, and which organization is a terrorist organization. I think it would declare the ANC, African National Congress, the party of Nelson Mandela back in those days when they were struggling against apartheid, as terrorists. Right? But that's not my point. My point is, when you read and when you research, you came to realize that a lot of these organizations are influencing people around the world to join them and become quote-unquote jihadists by using the internet. They won't leave in one country and go to another to necessarily sit and chat with anybody. They weren't leaving one community to go to another to sit and chat. They were using the internet as a tool of recruitment. And they were doing it quietly so. And so when we, if it's the internet, we have to talk with our people to point out what is wrong with the state of governance in this country. Then it's the internet we have to use. Some people would use cloaked language. Some of us are just as some people might say, callous as I am, and will not be too concerned about mincing words, as they say. This is our platform. This is where we communicate. This is where we have to share information. It's 30 minutes past 8 o'clock hour, 7 o'clock hour that is. Dr. Professor David Hines is in the house. I know these days when I'm referring to Dr. Hines, I say Dr. Professor David Hines, because like somebody say everybody is a doctor nowadays. Right? Honorary doctor and medical doctor and all kinds of doctors. So we have to use language that is clear and unambiguous, you know? It's not just any doctor, but is a professor. Dr. Hines, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the
And good morning to your audience.
I haven't said it, but I'm making you aware now that I don't know if you remember. Let me say that today's court day. I'm going to court today.
Yes.
And so that is why I'm here as early as I am this morning, so we can have a full hour or so of discussions on the issues.
Right.
And that means that nobody gets the call today. So y'all can participate in the live chat. Everybody is informed. So let's get to it, Dr. Hines. We have seen recently, well, there are always things happening in this society that should be commented on. We see there got a big follow between your friends, Glenlal and Freddie Kissoon. And one of the things which stood out to me in that whole fallout is that, according to Freddie, Glenlal was displeased with his column because he was saying there's no apartheid in Guyana, when everybody else was seeing apartheid. Right? I want to believe that Glenlal is not the only person, only private sector person, only Indo-Guyanese business person, influencer, etc., that is quietly acknowledging that there's apartheid in this country. So if time permits, maybe we'll talk some about that. But we have also noticed recently that we had two quote-unquote uprisings in African Guyanese communities. A few Wednesdays ago, I think it was, or the Tuesdays, we had a situation at the Buxton Public Road, Buxton Line Top, where the headlines screamed that Buxtonians were protesting for the release of a drug dealer. Of course, we sought to put that in its right perspective. And then last Sunday evening, I think, there was a protest of blocking of road and burning of debris and so on at Hope Town, resulting from an accident. It is alleged that an Indo-Guyanese businessman from further east of Hope Town struck two persons down and tried to circumvent the law and etc., etc. I'm sure you follow those stories. Let's talk about the significance of these two recent outbursts by African Guyanese against what they consider injustices.
Yes. I think it was Barack Obama who first used the term teachable moment. We have had 3 teachable moments that you mentioned there. And, you know, one has to understand that African Guyanese and other Guyanese who are not supporters of the government are frustrated. Frustrated because they see a government hammering them, hammering their people every day. And there does not appear to be any protest. There does not appear to be any pushback. I myself felt that on the issue of Moko, that there should have been some kind of protest on the part of the opposition. But generally our people are frustrated, and one has to understand that. You know, the constant calls on this program and other program for boots on the ground and so on, one has to understand that. And one must not holler at people who are calling for something to be done. But as viewers on this program know, I have always been very skeptical about that approach, you know, where we want to script a resistance, you know. I've said here that I have been around long enough protests to know that a lot of protests are the type of protests that are not scripted. You know, something happened and people react. And you never know where that can go. And that our job, our task here is to do what we are doing, continue to bring information to people, continue to bring perspectives to people, continue to expose what the government is doing, and continue to inspire our people. And that somewhere, someday, something is going to happen, and we don't know when. You know, we can't script. We cannot script protests. You know, we can organize individual protests, but when you organize that individual protest, you don't even know what that protest can evolve into, because we're dealing with human beings. Human beings are not always predictable. And because as human beings, we cannot always be predictable, our actions, our collective action, our resistance is not predictable. Like I said, I understand when people call every day and say, you know, why are Guyanese not doing this, and why are Guyanese not doing that, why Guyanese are taking this. And I always remind our supporters, just a mere 2.5 years ago, those people who we are saying are not doing anything today were ready to defend their votes. And if only their party had said, let's go down the road, they were ready to go down the road. And they could not have changed dramatically in 2 years. So it is not the people. There is something else that is happening in the society that is preventing sustained resistance. But last night I ended my program with a quote from a young lady who made a comment. She said, Guyana is a ticking bomb. And I ended my program with that because indeed that is what it is. We are a ticking bomb that can go off at any time. And I am very certain that when it goes off, some of us who are calling for boots on the ground may not be ready for what will happen. We are human beings. I keep using that term a lot. We are human beings, and human beings are not robots. Human beings are by our very nature. We are reasonable people, meaning that we reason, we think. And so I think what happened, those 3 incidents that you mentioned there, are incidents of great significance to what lies ahead for Guyana in my estimation. My estimation. If you look at the Buxton thing was a quarrel between the PPP and its enforcers that it is put in African villages. It has decided it is not going to deal with black people normally. They're not going to deal with black community leaders. They're not going to deal with the leader of the opposition and the opposition parties. That they are going to set up alternative mechanisms within the villages. And they're going to govern through those alternative mechanisms. The people who are going to share out things to them, who are going to enforce in their communities and so forth. That is the mechanism that they have chosen to govern the villages. And, you know, enforcers have a way of mobilizing people. And they mobilize you by enticing you, by showing you that they look, I have contact with the big man, and here are resources that the big people have given us. They can share things, and so on and so forth. And then we, who are the other kind of leaders, we begin to despair and said, look, these people are making inroads into our communities, you know? What we don't take into consideration when we are expressing those fears and so forth is that sometimes governments hang their own selves. You don't have to hang them. Because they have so much power, they become drunk. And when you're drunk, you don't have all your faculties. And you're doing things. You know, old people say, you know, when you eat quick, you go choke. You go choke. And that is what is happening. We have seen the government choking. And the response to that choking came in 3 instances that we didn't even realize. If someone had said 2 weeks ago, tell us that there would have been an uprising in Buxton as what took place 2 weeks ago, or there would have been that reaction in Upton, or, you know, a Freddie Kissoon would have been fired from the Kaitro News for saying there's no apartheid. These are things we could not script. We could not imagine that they were going to happen, because quite understandably we are looking for a scripted protest, because we are frustrated. We are frustrated, and we are looking for our people to take to the streets and boots on the ground and so on. And we're not understanding, or we are missing, not to understand, because I think we understand, we are missing the larger picture, is that the more the government throws its weight around, the more it is exposing itself to unscripted, impromptu reaction from the people. And often it is those unscripted reaction that really ignite responses from the larger society. And that's what happened there in Buxton. In Buxton, the PNC, the PPP, and its enforcers were at loggerheads. Here, their friends or enforcers, whatever you want to call them, I've always said people have a right to belong to whatever party they want to belong to, or support whatever party they want to support. I don't have a problem with that. But here were their friends in Buxton doing their thing. And Kanu goes after their friends. Now, it seems as though the deal is that Kanu should not have gone after them, because after all, these people are friends of the government. But Kanu went after them. Perhaps Kanu did not know these people were friends. Perhaps Kanu did not know friends were off limits. And Kanu went after them, and they reacted. They reacted. And then the rest of the village who are there is seeing what they feel is an injustice. Here is a young man. They say allegedly that he had drugs, and they're going after him, and they're firing left, right, and center. And black villages are sensitive to gunfire from law enforcement. And so they became curious, because it's their community, as GHK Lal said last night. Their community, Buxton is their community, and Buxton will be liable, because this thing is happening on Buxtonian soil. And so people come out. They come out to see what's going on. And the friends of the government made their statement. And the statement they're making is that, look, you have people on your side who are engaged in the underworld, and they're getting a pass. And people on our side who are doing something similar, allegedly, you're going after them. That is not right. That is not right. And so there is a reaction to that. So what you're really seeing here are friends of the government being treated differently. Just as how supporters of the government are being treated differently, by non-supporters of the government, where ordinary black people are treated differently from people of other ethnic groups. The same thing we are seeing among the friends of the PPP. As I said, whether you're friend or foe, you get the same kind of discriminatory treatment. You get the same kind of discriminatory treatment. And so that is what the Buxton thing was about. It was about the PPP giving their friends the same kind of discriminatory treatment that they give to the rest of the society. And so their friends respond and dare them, send the police. And they send the police, and the police came, and the police was a sideline when the story going on at company. The police, stand down, stand down. The army came after the thing was over. And the police had to negotiate with the PPP friends to end the thing. What we're seeing here is the blowing up of the strategy. The blowing up of the strategy by the people to use enforcers in the villages. Because what could have happened there is that as those Kanu people went in there and shooting up left, right, and center, God forbid, they could have killed an innocent child. They could have killed an innocent bystander. And then the rest of the community would have gotten involved. And then you would have had a real protest on your hand. And that is the risk. That is the risk of the PPP strategy of governance. They got off in Buxton. They got off because the rest of the community did not become embroiled. But if the rest of the community had become embroiled, that thing would have been chaos, because you would not have been able to distinguish between lawful protesters and let me take back that word, lawful. You would not have been able to distinguish between real community protest and protest by friends of the PPP.
Before we or as we continue this discussion, this analysis of Buxton, the police came and they stood down basically. They did not antagonize this situation. We heard on the news that according to them, they spoke to or they negotiated with Buxtonian leaders. What's the real significance of those two things? Number one, them taking a quote-unquote softer approach to dealing with this uprising. We always argue that, the police are callous and the police are, they treat black people anyhow and so on. But here it is, a black community as an uprising, in uplifting commas, but they came with a different approach. And again, historically, when these things happen, police ain't got time to negotiate with anybody, shoot up and beat up and so on. But they said that they were talking with Buxtonian leaders. Who are these Buxtonian leaders? How legitimate they are, and the change of tactics.
Well, I don't know how legitimate they are. The monkey know what's limb to climb on. So the police know very well that you cannot confront the friends of the PPP. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. They cannot confront the friends of the PPP. You confront the friend of PPP, first of all, if you shoot, they're going to shoot back. Because they have the capacity to do that. And once the thing escalates, eventually the rest of the community will become embroiled in it. And then you're going to have a real protest on your hand. So if you're the PPP, you want that thing to close down as quickly as possible, which happened.
And then we had the Hope Tongue matter over the weekend.
Well, the Hope Tongue matter points to another problem in the society, where again, friends, these are now, if Buxton had to do with a certain kind of friend, the Uptown had to do with another kind of friend. These are rich people in the society. They and their children, they do what they want. They control the police in their communities. They drive their fancy cars and they flaunt their wealth, and they basically terrorize people. So here was the son of this rich man, allegedly, who knocked down people in the village. And apparently was trying to use his status or based on his father's privilege, and trying to use that privilege. And the people of Uptown reacted. They reacted to what they have to go through every day. That is rich friends of the PPP throwing their weight around. Now, I don't believe in harming people and destroying their property and all that kind of story. None of us wishes that on anybody. But the significance of what took place there is that people instinctively reacted to the child of a rich man, a rich PPP friend. These people who enjoy privileges at the expense of the ordinary people. And they instinctively react when they felt this person had harmed people in their village. And again, we see that reaction to people who enjoy privilege in society because of their contact with the government. And so those two reactions are important, because what it shows is indeed that Guyana is a ticking bomb. And we don't know when and where and how that bomb will go off. And it went off in Buxton, it went off in Uptown, and it was quickly brought under control. But it could have gotten bigger, and it could have embroiled the rest of the community. And believe me, it is not the last time that we are going to see those kinds of reactions. You couldn't say those reactions were PNC organized reaction. You couldn't say it was the WPA in Buxton or the PNC in Buxton. You couldn't say that. It had nothing to do with the opposition. It had to do with people in their communities with differing interests reacting to what they see as an injustice. The PPP friends in Buxton reacted because they thought an injustice was being done to them. And they reacted. The people in Uptown, these are regular people, these are not friends of the PPP. They react to what they see as an injustice. And so it is the ticking bomb thesis that Sister Marlene used yesterday on my program. That was at play there in Uptown and Buxton. The lesson for us is that we continue to do our work and we continue to inspire our people. And that yes, we must always call for protest. We must always call for boots on the ground. But we must also know that there are boots on the ground, but they are unseen. And they're only waiting for that little thing. And it could have, like I said, both Buxton and Uptown could have escalated into larger protests. They didn't, but the signs are there. So when we think our people are not mobilized, we must think again. We must think again. I've said on this program, I know some people here have called me that I'm soft, and when I said I don't tell people what to do, I did have to tell the people in Uptown what to do. I know that. I do what I have to do here. I do what I have to do on my program. do what I have to do when I go into communities. But I have to tell human beings, when you get knocked and it hurts you, the human beings have the capacity to figure that out. Nobody, Aubrey Norton, didn't have to go to Uptown. I didn't have to go to Uptown. You didn't have to go to Uptown. And that is the lesson, I think, for our viewers and our supporters on programs like these. That they must understand. Yes, we have to keep the drum beat up. That we have to protest. We have to stand up. But we have to be very careful that we are underestimating the capacity of our own people in their communities to read a situation and to instinctively react to situations that may surprise us.
Instinctively react to situations that may surprise us. I had on the program, well, let's talk about that revelation, if I can call it that. Glenlal Freddie Kissoon. The fallout that, in my mind, revealed that quietly, quote unquote, major influential Indian operatives in the society, private sector operatives, friends of the PPP, are acknowledging that apartheid is indeed a problem in the society. What let me ask, political capital can come from that? Or what does that really say about the way civil society is operating? You're not hearing them condemning this government openly on its apartheid-like structures and governance practices. But apparently in their own circles, they are whispering. They have these whisper campaigns.
Well, yes, that came out in the exchange between Glenn and Freddie. Here's the thing, Brother Kadaki and our audience. Here's the thing. We cannot expect, or we should not expect Indian Guyanese to come out and to take strong positions on our behalf. The society is too divided, and that is not going to happen. Those Indian Guyanese are going to look at their own safety in their own communities. We continue to do our work. Now, when we made the charge of apartheid, we saw a quick reaction of the government, visceral. And we know that they continue to be haunted by that term apartheid. Right? Now, some of our leaders were scared when we used the term apartheid, some black leaders, and they wanted nothing to do with it. They didn't want to get close. Some of them who should have participated on the forum decided not to participate on the forum because they felt that we had gone too far, right? No. Those of us who are in this business, we know what's happening on the other side, and we got information that the apartheid thing was working for us. I have gotten communication from people who are close to the government, asking me to tone down on the apartheid thing because it's hurting the PPP. So when we continue to push a certain line, we are doing so partly because we know it's right, partly because our people believe it's right, but partly because we also know that it's hurting the other side. And it's hurting them because it's true, right? No, we cannot always reveal our intelligence, our sources, how we know certain things, and so forth. But we are aware that the other side is hurting by their own reaction, both private and public. And so, therefore, take if Freddie Kissoon is believed. He's saying he turned in this column on apartheid, saying there's no apartheid, and Mr. Lal refused to carry the column, and Mr. Lal in turn told him that, look, there is apartheid in Guyana, right? What people forget is that Kaitor News ran an editorial 1 year before we said about apartheid. Kaitor News ran an editorial saying there is apartheid. I discovered that editorial, I made it up, right? Typical in our society, the rest of the media didn't pick it up. Even our people didn't make much of it, you know, because people felt it was an aberration. Freddie Kissoon himself said that he saw the editorial and he doesn't believe that that editorial reflected the Kaitor News stance. That's what Freddie Kissoon said. When he now felt that Kaitor News is of a certain persuasion when it comes to apartheid, that Kaitor News supports the position that there's no apartheid, he felt bold enough to write what he called a rejection of apartheid. And the man who owned the paper tell him, not in my paper. Now that's a revelation to us. Again, I'm saying to our supporters, do not always believe that we are not right. Every one of us should be wearing an apartheid t-shirt. Because it is not only we who feel that there is apartheid. There are also others who are more supportive of the government who believe that there is apartheid. There are Indians who believe so. But we African Guyanese have to make our case. You see, some of our supporters tell us we talk too much, now it's time for action. And they don't realize talk is action. One of the biggest weapons that we have had is apartheid. It has caused all kind of confusion for the PPP. They're running about like headless chicken. But we believe that if we don't have boots on the ground, we're not winning. And what the Freddie Kissoon thing showed is that we are winning. We are winning because we have touched. It's also a revelation for the formal political leaders who are very queasy when it comes to talking about race. We have talked that over and over here. But race is where the PPPs carrying the blows, and race is where we have to fight them back. They like when we talk about class, because that's not where the fight is. The fight is on the question of race. How are you treating people of other races? That is where the fight is. And every time you go, you put on your gloves and you're ready to fight on that question, the PPP gets very, 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 very agitated. So the lesson is that we should push more on the racial problem in this country, because that's where the issue is. All right? Now, Kaitor News understands that they're selling papers to black people. Black people read papers. I've been shown statistics where our rural Indian brothers and sisters don't buy newspapers as much as the urban and village black people. They're the ones who buy newspapers every day. And so therefore, Kaitor News and Stabrook News and the others know that in terms of selling their papers, it's to black people they're selling to. And the advertisers often are advertising their products to black people. And so therefore, there is a potential value that we have. And when you're in struggle, you have to understand your actual and your potential value and use it. Now, one of the most revealing things was that Freddie Kissoon's readership dropped. Glenn Lal revealed that it started dropping from 2018. That was around the time of the no confidence vote when Freddie started to take a hard line against the PPP, the APNO government, APNO AFC. And Glenn Lal revealed that his readership started, and that it has reached the point now where it is at an all-time. Now, what is the lesson there? The lesson there is that David Hines or Aubrey Norton or Sherrod Duncan or Kidaki Amsterdam didn't have to tell black people stop reading Freddie, because we know the Indians are reading him. The Indians who never used to read him, some of them are reading him now. And I rather suspect a lot of them are from overseas. But black people obviously stopped reading him. And so it's known, because remember, he was very popular among black people. So what it shows is that black people have stopped reading Freddie Kissoon for 5 years. I didn't have to go and tell them. Again, I make the point to my comrades here that you don't always have to script the revolution. You don't always have to tell people do this. That black people on their own stop reading Freddie Kissoon's column. No leader to tell them do it. We never called for a boycott. They boycott Freddie. They found a way to read this Kaitro news without reading Freddie Kissoon. Again, people are mobilized and they're taking action. No, I don't want to take credit because I don't know. I don't know that I am taking. Remember in 2020 or 2021? Might have been 2021, when I called for an undermining of the PPP. And the PPP got angry. They flashed it all over the place. David Hines is calling for war. David Hines is this. I knew what I was saying. Because when I say undermine, you don't have to take a placard to undermine. You do what you do, you stop reading Freddie Kissoon's column. What you're doing there, you're undermining Kaitro News, which at that time was standing up to the government. And you stop reading Kaitro News to the point where Kaitro News has now dropped this person who was abusing your leaders, saying all kind of things about black people. Now he's gone somewhere else. Kaitro News is now on this issue of apartheid. Kaitro News is now at least according to Freddie, saying that we may be correct. So again, we didn't have to go and tell people, boots on the ground, stop reading Kaitro News. They did it on their own. They undermined Kaitro News. They undermined Freddie Kissoon, not necessarily Kaitro News, but they undermined Freddie Kissoon and just undermined the government. Stop reading that column. So Freddie obviously was shocked when he found out that his readership had dropped considerably. And I hear him talk about his viewership on the Freddie Kissoon Gildari program. They are feeding off the Guyanese critic audience. Remember, Guyanese critic built up a large following when he started out as sung as though he was pro-PNC, and black people were listening to him and so on. He built up his numbers. And so the numbers Freddie Kissoon and them get now is because of critic. If they were to go off on their own and do the Freddie Kissoon Gildari show, they wouldn't get those numbers. Their numbers they're getting are critic numbers. You see? So our people are undermining without us going out and telling them what. That is a big lesson, again, from the Freddie Kissoon Glenn Lal fallout.
Any surprises when it was revealed? Well, this I heard from the voice of Glenn Lal himself, that Freddie was, over time, Freddie wrote against all governments, criticizing them, but became a mouthpiece for the PPP and is being paid by Jack Dio. And Freddie, in his own voice, said he has not seen anything wrong with the Ali government, and Ali is a good man.
Well, it's clear that Freddie Kissoon has become a supporter of the PPP. I do not. Again, Freddie Kissoon has a right to support whoever we want to support. I don't have an issue with him with doing that. People change their minds, and he has changed his mind. But say so. Just say I changed my mind. And I'm now going to the PPP. Don't take out Ali and use Ali as something special. I say because of this special thing, I'm going. Ali is not special. We know that. If you rate Guyanese presidents by the standards that you rate presidents, Ali will score very low. There's nothing special about Ali.
Special needs, perhaps. Special needs, perhaps.
I'm not going there. So when Freddie and others say, I'm supporting this government because of President Ali, there's nothing special about Ali. So they're lying. They just want to support the PPP. But they cannot come out and say we support the PPP because this PPP, they were all knocking down the other day. So you have to convince us what has changed in the PPP. And they're trying to say Ali is the change. Show me where Ali is special. Show me where Ali is doing something transformational that others have not done. In fact, I would argue that Ali's presidency, the little that I have seen, has degenerated the PPP further from the Jack Dio days. It has not been an improvement on Jack Dio. The Ali's presidency is really a degeneration of Jack Dioism. You know, but Freddie and them will use that Ali thing to say it's not only the PPP's President Ali, but really they're supporting the PPP. And I have no problem with that. People have a right to do that. I had my problems with the coalition when they were in government. I voiced my concerns. I voiced my criticism. But when it came to the election time, I made the determination that the issues that I believed in, the ideological position that I have, my commitment to the working people of Guyana, my commitment to defending black people against those who would like to banish them back into the plantation, all those issues that I feel strongly about, that those issues stand a better chance under a coalition government than under PPP government. And so therefore, despite my problems with the coalition, I will support them. I will support them because they're a coalition of more than one party, which is something that I believe in. I believe we should have a coalition of all parties. But if you have a coalition of 2 or 3 parties, that is closer to where I think Guyana should be than one party. And those were my reasonings for objecting to the PPP and supporting the coalition. People say that I supported the coalition based on race or the less of the evils. People are free to make their analysis. I have explained why, despite my problems with the Granger style of governance and with the way in which the coalition conducted itself when it was in office, I've had serious problems with that. But at the end of the day, I supported their re-election because the things that I feel strongly about stood a better chance under a coalition, the coalition government and the PPP. And that the very notion of coalition suggests a plurality of ideas in theory, if not in practice, in theory. And that is something I believe in. So that my beliefs, my value system, I'm saying which of the 2 giants, my value system and my political beliefs and my idea of the future of Guyana, which one of them stand my views stand a better chance with? And it has to be the coalition. Did I believe that the coalition would implement everything that I believe in? No. Did I believe that the coalition was going to ideologically get to where I am? No. However, I thought that under them, I stood a better chance to get my worldview implemented, or aspects of my worldview implemented and under the PPP. Freddie obviously believes, and others believe, that where they are now in terms of their worldview is better served by the PPP, and they've gone over there. I don't have a problem with it. I do not have a problem with people deciding where they want to lower their bucket. So that's not my problem, but don't try to hoodwink me by telling me that you're supporting the PPP because of that. Because Dr. Ali is perhaps the worst president that we have had. And I am making that determination after I've seen the Ramatar presidency, which was sluggish. Ramatar presidency was with a minority government, and it was very sluggish. I've seen the what's his name, Barajatio presidency, which was brutal. But I think the Ali presidency is worse than the Ramatar and Jatio presidency. Partly because he's a poor man's, and I probably shouldn't use the word poor because I'm degenerating poor people, but he's a cobbled together version of Jatioism. You know? And so therefore when people tell me special, I'm wondering what they think special is.
Indeed, what they think special is. It's 8 o'clock there about. It's a minute past the 8 o'clock hour. I have to.
The fire burning red in a Georgia representing of a Kams Tv. Big up Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you going like Kams son. Red. Kams Tv, son. You burn this swine when no want you shine. The tree of life, them no want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Kams, I say them heart no kind.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money, never, money, never, money, money, never, money, money, I know what you can even money, money, never, money, never, money, money, never, money, money, you can keep your conniving money. When you been not for a bum, you have been tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, you have been tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never, money, never, money, money, never, money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a get a piece. A 2 pound note and a get a piece. A 2 pound note and a get a piece. That's all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I don't want you can I be money. Oh, Joseph.
Morning, neighbor. Morning. How are you doing? Morning, morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is 7 hours 31 on the 9th day of February in the year 2023. Listen, the lines are open up. Let's talk a thing. The lines are open. Let's talk a thing. How y'all been? How was yesterday? How was the last night? What happened yesterday that was special to you? How did you survive the trials and tribulations that you face as a citizen of this country on a daily basis? Had a restful night? Or your conscience kept you awake? Boy, when man and his conscience at rat is a serious thing, you know. You don't have to sleep. So the question is, are you at peace with your conscience? Or are you at rat with your conscience? Oh, yeah, make out. Make some money yesterday. Money is all over the place to be made, you know. People are being called and given contracts. They don't have to tender for them. But you have to be in the right corner. Right? You're either in the red corner or the green corner. In these times, if you're in the red corner, a lot of things will be favorable for you. I don't know how long the favor will last, but a lot of things will be favorable for you. And so a lot of people are finding out that right now, if you're in the red corner, you're going to be favored, but they don't know for how long. I see a video trending across social media, a female doctor. Kneeling in front of State House in protest, pleading to the fat guy, as she calls him, President Ali, for employment. Acknowledging that she is a slave because of her conditions of existence, and pleading with this good guy, according to Freddie Kissoon, for employment. Those of you who know the story, I'd be happy for you to share with us, because there's a backstory to that particular story. And in case you're wondering, these days I'm at my laziest. Some things I don't expend time on researching. I just comment on them in passing, because they're not as important as to get my research time. But those of you who follow the politics of this country will recognize that at some point that same young lady was a champion for the PPP cause. Anybody who went to the Artichoke Convention Center during the time of the recount can remember seeing her? Anybody can remember seeing a video on social media with her saying, hey, listen, the coalition lost the election, they must stop this rigging thing and give the PPP the reins of power? How many of you know that? Right? But here it is. What? Approximately 2 years into the governance of the PPP. She's pleading her cause for a job. She's pleading her cause for meaningful employment. And what does she get? Arrest. That is how the society, that is how dictators operate. The people are begging for bread, and they give them stone. The young lady is begging for employment. She says she has a 3-year-old child to take care of. And instead of the caring government, the caring president, according to Freddie Kissoon, gets off of his high horse and either go out and have a chat with the young lady or send an emissary. Send someone, find out what is her problem. She doesn't look like a maruma, she doesn't look like a terrorist. She claims to be a medical doctor. Why do we have a medical doctor kneeling in front of where I sleep or I am supposed to be sleeping? Why do we have a medical doctor kneeling in front of the official residence of the president, begging for employment? Somebody could have gone out there and found out what the issue really is. Why is she not employed? Why is she brought to that level to have to kneel in front of the official residence of the president to beg for employment. A caring president. I'm willing to bet that Granger would have sent somebody out to listen to her and try to appease this situation. But no, Ali doesn't want to come across as a soft president. Right? Ali doesn't want to come across as a soft president. You got to be macho in everything you do. So y'all arrest her, take her ass down to Brickdam and lock her up. Right? We have no use for her. We don't need her. In the first place, who told her to support our quote-unquote cause during the election standoff? She's trying to get in, find favor with us, no? But it didn't work now, so she got to be on her knees. What an image. A qualified black woman in African History Month on her knees, begging mercy from a man named Ali, who purports to be the president of this country. But she's arrested. And so I'm asking, those of you who know the backstory, how did she become unemployed in the first place? Was she ever employed as a doctor? Why did I ask that question? If she was ever employed as a doctor. I ask that question because there are many of our youngsters, many of our citizens who go overseas on scholarships and they do exceedingly well and they qualify and they certify themselves and they come back only for the system, the apartheid system, to discriminate them. Not grant them license to practice in the field that they're certified. Not find placement for them despite the fact that they are the responsibility of the government. Because the thing is, once you get a Government of Guyana scholarship, you're bonded. Dependent on the value of the scholarship, you're bonded for X number of years. Perhaps I think the minimum might be 2 years. And so when you come back, the government has a responsibility of finding employment for you. Placement for you to work out your bond. Give back service to the people of Guyana who funded your education. And if, as far as I understand it, if it is that the government cannot find appropriate employment for you, then they can give you a letter that releases you from the bond so that you can find employment elsewhere until such time that the government is needed. The government needs your service. And so we have a lot of persons who are scholarship awardees who have completed their training and they're just languishing in there. Some of them are minibus conductors. Some of them are at home eking out a living, eating out of the pot of the parents and relatives and so on. Because the government, the Ministry of Public Service Management, PSM, Public Service Ministry, I've not been able to place those people or chose not to place them. Right? There's also, of course, the issue of the Public Service Commission, which, as far as I remember and I understand, up until now has not been properly constituted, if constituted at all. Right? And it is the Public Service Commission which really and truly is responsible for appointing people, appointing public servants, especially on a fixed pension level. So these are all issues that I raise in relation to this particular young lady, this female doctor, or this female who says she is a doctor, because I have not seen her qualification, certification, etc. Sometimes you can't go on a lot of things in this country because a lot of people purport to be a lot of things which they are not. I know some stories which will eventually hit the news of a lot of people masquerading, operating under the guise of being this and being that. Do you remember a few months ago, a young man was arrested and placed before the court, at least on 2 occasions, for impersonating a medical doctor. This young man, I understand, functioned at the Georgetown Hospital and public medical facilities for years as a doctor. But it was eventually revealed that he was never even trained as a medic. Right? He was before the courts, and recently the case was dismissed because nobody offered evidence against him. We must ask why nobody offered evidence against him. If he has been working in the system for years as a medical doctor, he must have worked alongside people who heard him claim and etc. saw him perform as a medical doctor. But nobody offered the evidence, and so the case was dismissed as far as I remember. Well, Rhonda Daniels' chance is saying this young lady was a doctor at the Georgetown Public Hospital. And after the election, she exposed some inefficiencies and was fired. Good? Well, like I said, I remember her championing the cause of the PPP. And so she was championing the cause of the PPP. I would believe it is in that same thrust of things that she decided to expose the inefficiencies to further make the coalition government look bad, or the immediate past government look bad. Because she had every confidence that the PPP was going to fix it. And so the question is, what went wrong between herself and the PPP? Whose toes did she mash when she exposed those inefficiencies? A lot of people don't understand that. Listen, the PPP needs you. The PPP will use you. But especially for black folks, there is a used by date. In short, there's an expiry date. There is going to come a time. There is going to come a time when the PPP will have no more use for you and will put you aside. I like to tell you how the PPP is a mafia organization. And they say the only way you leave the mafia is dead or in jail. You don't just walk out of the mafia. In many instances, our black folks are realizing it's more very sharp. Tell me about the chin thing. In many instances, our people are realizing that when you join up with the PPP to do wrongs against the citizens of this country, when they're finished with you, you will leave, they will leave, you will leave unceremoniously. They will kick you out. If you manage to stay alive, you will be so damaged that you would rather be dead. Right? You would rather be dead. I am sure, prior to this young lady being dismissed and faced with the hardships that she currently faces, she must have had a chip on her shoulder. She's a doctor. Doctors are extremely proud people. You can't get no doctor to kneel and beg nobody for nothing. In fact, I say doctors behave like gods, demigods. And so look what the PPP has brought her to. And I'm saying this to say I'm not rejoicing at her plight. I believe everybody has a right to work. Everybody has a right to economic empowerment. Everybody has a right to justice. What I'm pleading with our young people to understand, recognizing this society, that they will just use you and discard you according to their will. And so you have to be very, very careful. You have to be very, very careful in terms of the relationships you create with the PPP. Right? You have to understand that. And this is the sickening thing with this society. What is sickening in this society is that what used to be a civil society with a conscience is no longer existing in this country. Civil society, as I would understand it, consists of the churches and religious organizations and these social groupings like the Lions and this and that and the other, all of these, fraternal organizations and so on. Good. I remember as a youngster or teen, when it came to struggle for rights and justice in this country, Father Malcolm Rodriguez's name was always associated with it. He was a Jesuit priest. Right? Connecting with the Roman Catholics, I think. Now, the Roman Catholic, the churches, the Anglican, all of them, Bishop who? From the Anglican, Bishop George, I think. All of these people played a part in the struggle for democracy and good governance and so on in this country. But you don't hear them now. You don't hear them now. Well, when I say them, I'm talking about the organizations which these people represented in the past, because a lot of them are dead and gone. But instead of standing on the side of the poor, a lot of these organizations are now lining up at the government's table to drink out the trough. And so injustices are continuing and they are not saying anything. In the instance of this young lady, okay, let's say she misbehaved at the Georgetown Public Hospital. We will dismiss her from the Georgetown Public Hospital. Or we will punish her by suspension or whatever. Are we saying that she does not have the right to work any other place of this in this society? Are we saying that she cannot seek and get employment in any other part of this society? It is only allowed in a dictatorship, where even they enable us, the business people, the private hospitals and so on, whose administrators and owners are in bed with the PPP, or feel so threatened by the PPP that they will not give her employment because the PPP will come and punish them for employing her. That she just has to stay out there with her skills or training, most likely at the expense of the people, government and people of Guyana. When there's a shortage of medical personnel in this country, she has to be out there wallowing in poverty to the extent that she is brought to her knees. Right? Melania McKenzie, I agree. I don't know who will make I go to my knees and beg and defame myself and all of that. But as they say, who knows it feels it. Or who feels it knows it. Out of desperation, a lot of people do a lot of things. And that is what the PPP does. They push a lot of our people to a point of desperation where they believe that they have no choice. And instead of using that which would appear to be a difficult choice, they choose the easy way out. Instead of fighting back, pushing back when you're back against the wall, a lot of us get on our knees and we beg. We get on our knees and we beg. Some do it publicly, some do it privately. But we must ask ourselves, what kind of society will allow its professionals, especially its women, to have to be degraded to this extent? before someone listens to their cries? What kind of society? Have we lost our moral compass? This good man, according to Freddie Kissoon, this man who is different according to Freddie Kissoon, and according to Freddie, this man who is the best president he has seen, while we have seen the worst in him. What would it have taken to give the doctor a hearing as against an arrest? Where is the Guyana Medical Council? Where are all of the people from the medical fraternity? She served at some point in time. She's still willing and available to serve. Where are they? Huh? Where are they? You know, somebody said maybe she's looking for a job to sustain her status. I am remembering. I told you all I know this woman's story to some extent, you know. Isn't this the same female doctor who would become a security guard after being dismissed from the GPHC? I'm almost sure. Right? Like I told y'all, these days a little lazy. I rely on a memory. Not too much research right now. But you go and search for it. And you'll find that there was a female security guard or a female doctor. Right? Who would become a security officer. Village Voice News. Let me see if I'm right. Medical doctor claims discrimination at the hands of health officials. Begs for her release letter to pursue studies and work overseas. Right? I am not a person saying it. I know. I know. Right? This is a Village Voice story. So while I'm saying to you guys, I say, I'll be with the backstory because I know there's a backstory. Here it is by Svetlana Marshall. Confronted by a significant cut in her salary by the Ministry of Health, Dr. Borsha Saskia Solomon, medical doctor, MBA, said in an attempt to fill the void, she became a security guard, a job she held for some 5 months in 2021. Today she fights a different battle, one involving a quest to secure her release letter from the government of Ghana so that, according to her, she can be freed of a world of racial discrimination. Quote, "That's me last year when I had to work at Caliber Security Services strictly night because the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health was illegally deducting $45,000 a month from my salary for 5 months, from May 2021 to September 2021. All this while working as a doctor at West Demerara Regional Hospital during the day and was serving as the vice chairman on the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board, Ministry of Agriculture." End quote. Dr. Solomon told the Village Voice newspaper while referencing to a photo in her Caliber security uniform. The 31-year-old woman said today the struggle continues as she accused the Ministry of Health, Medical Council of Ghana, and officials at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation of racially discriminating against her and stagnating the licensing process. Contacted on Friday, the Health Ministry declined to comment on the matter. The root of the problem. According to Dr. Solomon, Life as she knows it has never been easy, but the situation deteriorated upon her return to Guyana in August 2015 after studying medicine in Cuba for 2009 to 2015, from 2009 to 2015. Upon completing her internship at the West Demerara Regional Hospital, Dr. Solomon graduated in July 2016 and began working with the Ministry of Public Health in November 2016. She recalled that it was during her internship at the West Demerara Regional Hospital that she and another doctor got into an argument on popular social media platform Facebook. Dr. Solomon said it was not until she received her institutional license from the medical council that the other doctor lodged a complaint with the board. According to a letter seen by the Village Voice newspaper, the then Secretary of the Medical Council of Guyana wrote Dr. Solomon on December 14, 2016, asking her to appear before the council for, quote, professional misconduct, end quote. The Medical Council of Guyana is in receipt, quote, the Medical Council of Guyana is in receipt of a complaint against you from Dr. Shanette Jack. You are invited to a meeting with the council on Thursday, 5th January at the Secretariat, end quote. A section of the letter read. Dr. Solomon reportedly appeared before the council in January 2017 in the company of her attorney. While she did not deny that there was an issue with the other doctor on Facebook, Dr. Solomon maintained that the issue had nothing to do with her work, and as such, there was no reason for the medical council to intervene. Quote, the issue didn't happen at no hospital, it didn't involve a patient, and so it has nothing to do with the medical council board, end quote, she told this newspaper. Dr. Solomon said since the complaint, she has received a number of threats from health officials, though the matter is still pending. It was explained that upon completing her 18 months of rotation within 5 departments at the Georgetown Public Hospital in May 2018, she received a failed grade from the head of the General Surgery Department. According to her, the doctor in charge sat on the medical council and was fully aware of the allegations laid against her. Quote, he victimized me because of the fake case against me. He never allowed the other doctors to give me any patients. I wasn't allowed to do any minor surgery or anything. And in the end, he wanted to spin the narrative saying that I didn't want to work, end quote, she contended. Dr. Solomon said upon informing the then Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Shamdeo Prasad, that she needed to redo general surgery because of the failed grade, he reportedly told her that she would need to redo all 5 rotations, though she had passed the other 4. It is alleged that her institutional booklet was confiscated by the chief medical officer. The young doctor then turned to the then minister within the Ministry of Health, Dr. Karen Cummins, for help. But though she got back her institutional booklet, she was advised to redo the entire rotation. The doctor began her rotations at the West Demerara Regional Hospital in January 2019 and successfully completed the program in 2020. Faced with more threats, the young mother and doctor said she began to lean towards the PPP Civic during the controversial 2020 elections. Open quote, during the recount period, I would have made a lot of friends with a lot of people in the PPP government, so I could save my job, because I know once they take away your license, you cannot work. And I would have been left stuck in the system, no job, nothing to do, Dr. Solomon said. She said while she managed to renew her institutional license in January 2020, she had difficulties doing so in 2021, but nevertheless got through. Open quote, well, the government had already appointed me to be a board of director, most likely to be a director in the board of the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board. So they had no choice than to renew the license, and it would have expired 2021 December, she explained. By September 2021, Dr. Solomon was transferred to GPHC. However, according to her, no replacement letter was issued, and therefore she could not have commenced duty. I think that would have been no commencement letter. Quote, I was back and forth between the Director's Office of Regional Health Service, the Permanent Secretary Office, and the Human Resource Department at Ministry, begging them for a replacement letter. I called GPSC in September and they said there was no placement letter there for me. End quote, she said. According to Dr. Solomon, the hospital's administration promised to inform her once in receipt of the letter, but that was never done. It was not until January 2022 that Dr. Solomon was informed by GPSC that GPSC had the placement letter since September 2021 and had indicated to the health ministry in November that she had not showed up for work. Dr. Solomon questioned why the health ministry waited until January to inform her of GPHC's complaint, maintaining that it was no fault of hers. By February 2022, her salary was blocked. Dr. Solomon was keen on pointing out that in November 2021, she became critical of government following the announcement that public servants would get a 7% increase. Quote, I made a comment saying all these uneducated government ministers should shut their mouth and allow educated public servants to express themselves about the 7%. End quote, the doctor recalled. Dr. Solomon said, though she was appointed to serve a second term on the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Control Board in October 2021, by the end of November she was kicked off the board. Dr. Solomon said despite the many challenges, she opted to pursue international relations at the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus in September 2021, with the hope that 2021 would have been the end of her contractual agreement with the government. However, much to her surprise, she was informed that she has 2 months outstanding and as such cannot receive her full registration to practice medicine nor her release letter. According to her, there is no movement to provide her with the release letter, which would allow her to travel beyond the shores of Guyana. Quote, I need my release letter so I can migrate out of Guyana and flee the government because the government is the one targeting me. End quote. Dr. Solomon said while noting that she is suffering from depression due to the ongoing dispute, Dr. Solomon has not only written a number of senior government officials on the matter, but also the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, seeking help. So here it is. It wasn't the planned program for this morning, but as you know, as things happen, you have all of the information or a lot of the information in relation to this female doctor who was kneeling in front of the official residence of the president. Right? Beverly Cyrus Wilson, I don't know if you're saying I'm a bad reader or the facts of the reading just bothered you. Explain. I like to know, you know. I got a friend who said, you always like to know. You don't let nothing pass. Right? Don't let nothing pass. And so here it is. We are getting a clearer understanding of why this woman is in front of the State House kneeling, begging Ali to give her 1 minute to hear her plea. But instead she was arrested. Because in short, the good man, according to Freddie Kissoon, is quite aware of this problem. This problem couldn't be existing since 2020, when the PPP took office. And this woman wrote to several ministers and ministries and so on and so forth. And Ali is not aware of it. So y'all show me this good man named Ali. And y'all show me the system of governance led by this good man named Ali that embraces or shows love for African Guyanese. Then where even professional African Guyanese are being mashed and trampled upon. According to this Village Voice story, yes, okay, I failed the rotation. I was made to redo it. I passed the rotation, but I still am not getting my licenses. Why? Because I offended somebody that is dearer to the PPP than myself. I know a lot of y'all want cause Dr. Cummings and say the coalition was in office and they didn't do nothing for her. But from my understanding from this story, Dr. Cummings ensured that she got back her practice license And she was advised, as I suspect might be the policy, to redo the 4 rotations, which she subsequently passed. I guess by the time she succeeded at those 4 rotations, the coalition was out, or on their way out. And here she is explaining why it is she took the side of the PPP during those recount months and during the election standoff. She was thinking about herself. That's how she was thinking about herself. She said it herself. She was thinking about herself. And it is one of the problems we have as a society, as a group, as an ethnic group. I always say, sometimes we're too individualistic in our thinking. She didn't stop to think that, maybe, just maybe, if the coalition triumphs in this one, I will eventually get what is rightfully due to me, because in the first place I got back my practice license. No, I'm going to hedge my bet with the PPP. It looks as though they're going to get through with this rigging. So let me jump on that bandwagon. Well, since they realized that you were on their bandwagon for selfish reasons, they rewarded you, I like be fair. She was rewarded. She was placed in the pesticides and TCCB, Toxic Chemicals and Pesticide Control Board, as a director. The PPP usually rewards you with board membership and so on. Board members is getting money, and prags. But when you become a friend of the PPP, under these circumstances, a tool of the PPP under these circumstances, you lose your independence. And you dare not make an utterance that is not pleasing to any one person, one of these demigods at the PPP, because you're going to pay for it. You're in their camp. They rewarded you, you become a board member. And I guess you were floating in air at the Georgetown Hospital. Nobody like you. But you dare to show your independence by saying these uneducated ministers must allow educated people to tell you how to feel about this 7% imposition. Who dare you? That's what the PPP is asking you. Who dare you? How dare you call us uneducated as we are? The truth hurts. And so you've definitely mashed the calluses of the likes of Frank Anthony and what the other one named Laptop Ramsamy. You mashed their corn. You cause some people mental stress and strain, psychological issues. You awoke in people like Ramson them. I said a place that they're going to mash you. And for months on to years, you are being mashed. I'm not rejoicing, I'm saying it again, I'm not rejoicing at the plight of this young female doctor. But I'm using it as a teachable moment. Recognize that in our selfish ways, we join the PPP and do selfish things and cause problems for others. And then a time comes when the PPP has no more use for us. And in many instances, we have nobody to stand on our side. Because we have already burned the bridge that we crossed. We have already made enemies of those who can really stand on our side. Right? But the question here is, I started by talking about that without even knowing the facts of the letter. And then as I decided to search, you see, research is easy with the help of Google and so on. See how quickly I was able to bring this story up. One of the things I started addressing was, if the government is unable to find employment for you based on your contractual agreement, they can issue you a release letter until such time. In this instance, this young lady is saying that, based on her calculation, she would have served her bond to the government and people of Guyana. But based on the government, she had 2 months remaining, and so could not be issued a release letter until she served that 2 months. There's a gray area there as to whether or not the 2 months were served. But I do not see why it will not be served, because if you need 2 months to get your freedom, I don't know why you will be unwilling to go through the 2 months regardless of how much stress and strain. And so one can assume that the young lady has completed, has satisfied her contractual arrangement with the government of Guyana in relation to a Cuban scholarship. But they, in their vindictive and wicked ways, are refusing to give her her release. Now that release, when she has that release letter, it removes her name from a blacklist at the airport. And so she gets the freedom to travel to wherever she wants to travel to, whether for education or employment purposes. But the reason why this letter most likely is being kept from her is because of the desire of these demigods in the PPP to really punish her. You must not be employed here. We will not provide employment for you in the public sector. Our friends in the private sector will not hire you either. And you cannot leave the shores to go and get employment either, because we will ensure that doesn't happen. And so this is not racism and wickedness. I don't know what else could be. And since I know these release letters and so on that come from the Public Service Ministry where dirty parag is, I am arguing that there are antecedents to this. Because remember, you know, I say I rely a lot on history to teach. When the PPP had just gotten into power, that black doctor, that African Guyanese doctor who was doing endocrinology, I think is the name of the study, something to do with your hormones and so on. Can't remember his exact name. But he dared, according to them, to criticize the PPP. And Sonia Parag, Dottie Parag, had pulled his scholarship. When he had only a few courses, I think, to do exam. He was in his final stages of writing his examinations. To become the only, I think, is endocrinologist in this country. I can't remember his exact field of specialization, but he was going to be the only such qualified and certified person, medical doctor, in this country. And Sonia Parag pulled his scholarship. So this dirty human being over at the Ministry of Public Service has to be brought to the fore. We have to examine her. I'm being told that the man's name is Dr. Crandon. What happened to him? Where is he now? Because I know a lot of people pledged that he was going to write his exams and so on. As a matter of fact, when people said that they were going to support him financially for him to get his exams done and so on, she said that the government of Guyana had withdrawn his scholarship and therefore instructed the Cuban government to get him out of the country. Y'all remember that? Caleb McLaughlin. Simon Blackman said he is excuse me, said he is practicing now and afraid to call out the apartheid government. You can understand it's fair to call out the apartheid government. Because in reality, most likely he's still bonded, number one. And number two, if he calls them out, he will find himself without a practice license. Huh? That's what we're dealing with. So y'all show me this nice man named Ali. Show me Ali. This nice man according to Freddie Kissoon. Not my definition. I say he's special, he's a special needs person. And if Freddie and the likes are arguing that there's no apartheid in this country, I'll explain that. Explain the treatment of these young black men and women, professional young black men and women under this Ali government. Explain it if it's not apartheid and racism. And contrast that to the doctor in the psychiatric hospital, the Marhouse, the mad doctor in Marhouse, who is abusing from the administrator right down, but nobody seems to be able to discipline her. Because, like she say, the PPP got my back. The PPP got my back. Who got these young black people's back? Who got their back? How do we right this wrong? Dr. Salman can't do it on her own, I guarantee you that. She needs help. Whether or not she supported the PPP or the coalition, everybody has a right to their political association and allegiance. Everybody also has a right to work and fairness. Will we stand with her based on that right? Or are we going to leave her as a lone stander because of her political choices in the past? And perhaps present, I don't know. Because maybe ask her to do it again, she will do it all over again. But that's my role here. To keep you woke. That's my role. Keep you woke. Keep you aware of what is happening in this society. And as I'm talking about what is happening in this society, I can tell you there's a split right now in the PPP. I mean, they always had a splits, but they're never public. I understand that they got some camps in the PPP right now, fighting over some old slaves. How they was say? Some camps fighting over some old slaves. It's like the plantocracy deciding which house slave is better and which house slave should be kept and which house slave should be sent. And before I get in depth with that, let me say this. I had a conversation with a former policeman yesterday who said he would be 59 years old in this year. And Hickins is older than he is. Y'all hear me? He is 59 years old this year. And Hickins is older than he is. He said when he left the police force, Hickins was a lance corporal on the drill course. Or the drill square, something to that extent. Right? This year he is 59. And Hickins is older than he is. But Hickins is still on the job as acting commissioner of police. Right? My sources told me, which I shared with you, that by mid-January, Hickins should have gone home on pre-retirement leave. That has not happened as yet. I am now told that it has not happened because in the PPP camp, there are people who like people. And so everybody is batting for who they like. For example, the fire chief has reached time to go home. I think the chap named Wickham. But he's a favorite of Robson Ben. Higgins has reached time to go home. And he is a favorite of Jagdion, Ali, and Anil. Bess over the army has reached time to go home. And he also has his godfather, excuse me, godmother, in the PPP cabinet. And so the battle in the PPP cabinet is this. If any one of these people get an extension, all of them will have to get an extension. And I'm not going to support your extension if you don't support my extension. Likewise, if one has to go, all has to go. And so there's this rift right now in the PPP. And there's this constant debate, and this constant fight, and this constant quarrel as to who will be sent home because they reach time to retire. Higgins should have long gone on pre-retirement leave because he has a lot of these. Wickham should be also on pre-retirement leave because he has a lot of these and he's of age. Likewise, Bess. My understanding is that the Public Service Ministry has issued letters to this extent, that these three public officials have reached the age of retirement or will soon reach the age of retirement and should proceed on leave by a particular date. But the government is not acting on it because, like I said, everybody got a favorite jackass to ride and they don't want it released. Right? They don't want it released. And that is why you can't have a society that functions normally. Because if your existence, if your employment, if your bread and butter is dependent on who likes you in the cabinet and who doesn't like you, then a lot of people will be bending over backward to be liked. And a nasty word come to my mind just now. And that is why this society is as messed up as it is. One big shithole country according to Donald Trump. You have to pay attention to that. Things are regular. Things not regular. On Dr. Hines' program last night, they discussed the fact that Claudette Singh has backed off of wanting to appoint, I think it's Anil Giddings, I can't remember if that's the name, to a position for which he should not even be considered. But the PPP would like to have him there. And with the constant dissent of the quote-unquote opposition commissioners, Claudette has finally backed off. But I like to tell y'all, I like to ask these questions. You think Claudette backed off because she is tired of the fight? Or do you really think it is a victory for the opposition commissioners? I am betting that they have found or will be searching for a suitable replacement. And so don't drop your guards down. You have to continue to be aware. You have to remain woke. You have to be prepared to continue the battle for fairness in these appointments at GECOM. Because like they did with the boundaries issue, they acknowledge, they agree that the minister has no authority to change it. But then GECOM adopts it as their baby. And they did exactly what the minister wants done. Or they're purporting to do exactly what the minister wants done. And so don't let us celebrate with Claudette backing off of this appointment. I am positing they either have found the perfect replacement or they are looking for the perfect replacement. It is now 25 minutes past 8 o'clock hour. The lines are opened. My throat is getting tired and sore, so the lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call you. Tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. Oh, and my bad, as they say. I'm sorry, I haven't reported to you what transpired at court yesterday, but the trial continued yesterday. Lisa Rose is saying Ekins is about 55. And you know, everybody will have to argue about Ekins' age and so on, because this man is saying he worked with Ekins. Ekins was older than he is. Ekins remains older than he is, and he is 59 this year. And if he is 59 this year, he's suggesting that Ekins is older than 59 because he's older than he is. As a matter of fact, he claimed, he alleges that he know Ekins got 3 birth certificates. Call it live, good morning.
Yes, Mr. Kadaki. A pleasant good morning to you.
Good morning.
And I must compliment you to keep up your good works. Because had it not been for you, we would not know these little pieces and bits. And I can assure you that with the good works, people getting to know how this vindictive government is. And for those our slave that acquire the office, these different departments, they need to be bounty hunt. Guyanese sit down too damn much. They need to be bounty hunt and get out the place, because it's these our slaves is the foundation of this apartheid government. And they need to be bounty hunt. They're gonna get a time like in the crime spree time, when the police they used to gotta put their uniform in the food bowl, and they gonna come back that time and even serious. Especially Jack Dio that in his cave, like a monster that pulling string and direct a lot of stupidness that goes on in our beloved country, and full in his pocket for he and his cronies. God don't like wrong things, and he gonna get a stop off a day of reckoning. We need somebody like you in Georgetown and Linden, Barbies, to spread these good words. I can't wait to when the morning come to tune in on this program to get some knowledge, and you continue to edify people who sleeping, and you continue with the good work. God bless you, and be careful.
Thank you for your call.
Have a blessed day.
Barbara Barrington, not because you went to the same school with me and we were in the same class, we are of the same age, you know. I had to be reminded of that the other day. Because I don't know if I ever mentioned it to you. I didn't go to nursery school. I never went to nursery school. I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing, but I never went to nursery school. And so I was arguing the other day that some friends of mine, some people that I know, were older than I am. I think that was the argument. Because they were in classes ahead of me or something to that extent. But when push come to shove, when we got down to brass tacks, and then it really dawned on me, I say, yeah, it's possible I was behind these people because I never went to nursery school. I started school later than I was supposed to. And so it's likely that I could have been in a class behind them. You and Ekins could have been in the same class because he had flunked the previous classes. So he could have been older than you, but in the same class with you. I know situations like those two. I'm not purporting to know. I ain't the parents, I don't know nothing about the kids. I didn't even know, I can't recognize the kids properly if I see him. But for as much as he is a public official, I comment on things in relation to him. Right? And the individual I had a conversation with, I know for a fact that they know him personally. So here it is, you say you went to the same school with him, you were in the same class. Here's somebody you know him personally, worked with him, as a matter of fact. As a member of the force and so on. I don't know who is right. But what I know is that the public records say that he has reached the time for retirement by July. Is it by July? He has reached the retirement age and he should have been off on pre-retirement leave already. He has not gone. Right? I'm getting a whisper that he has been given an extension to July. But I'm also told that there are fights in the PPP campus too. No extension for one. Anybody getting extension, it has to be at least these three: fire, police, and army. Good? I don't know. Lines remain open. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. 6225933 is the number to call. Let me see if there are any voice notes. Excellent. Excellent. Listen, this thing is aggravating as embarrassing. Since I had a flu or whatever a couple weeks ago, I'm left with this. I'm told to buy what? Okay, thank you for your advice.
Hello, Moto.
Call it live, good morning.
Morning, Kadaki. And morning.
Like you got the same thing I got.
Yeah. Apparently so. In reference to the doctor who is begging in front a fraud alley place there, it just shows the level of where we are as a people, especially the African Guyanese that's there. That we should be ashamed of our behavior, calling ourselves slaves. And of course, that just didn't happen just like that. And I think where we should actually act on principle, here she was having some difficulties under the APNU, and then she, switched. So it just seems like we as a people, that's what we are prone to do, as opposed to, prone to selling out, prone to switch. Now she didn't get what she wanted under the PPP, the racist, illegal PPP, and but she is begging, and stuff like that. But here it is, right, that I think a lot of us are armed with the information, but we just simply refuse to act because we are scared. We will more likely use down and kill our own people than kill the people or take care of the people who need to be, gone, because of this self-hatred we have, So, and another thing, I just have to bring this up. I was actually looking at a YouTube video when the APNU was in power. Wasn't there a threat to President Granger's life? And you had folks coming. I had one gentleman said he was being paid $6 or $7 million. But whatever happened to that story? It just seems that you had plus names were named. So whatever happened to these stories? And that's just, to me, it just shows the stupidity on us that we would let things like that go when you're in charge. Those business people that actually paid for the hit should have been jailed, hanged, or something. But the stupidity of us, we like to appease. Here's somebody threatening the president's life, but nothing happened. I mean, it boggles the mind. And that's why I'm so harsh on us. I'm harsh on those racist, coolie people too as well. But, we just got to get some type of sense, man, And I watched the Dr. Hines show with Mr. Alexander, and what he said, I mean, what is going on with Guyana that we don't know? These people are already rigging the thing, and I believe the APNU is getting ready to take part in the election. Come on. When are we going to get some damn sense and do something different? We think we're going to come out with more votes against it. It's not going to happen. They are redistricting the place to favor them. And we're going to come out after the fact We're being told all of this stuff right now, but when the deed is done, that's when we're going to maybe protest for a day or something like that, man. I mean, I'm just really sick and tired of our people simply laying back and allowing us to get licks every day. Man, I'm just tired, sick and tired. As the famous civil rights protester Fannie Lou Hamer in the United States said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So obviously, we may be not as sick and tired as we should be. And that's my take.
Thank you. Voice note.
A blessed good morning to you, Kadaki. Kadaki, I would like you to get a list of the... A blessed good morning to you, Kadaki. Kadaki, I would like you to get a list of the drug dealers in Guyana. I know you can. I'm challenging you.
At what end should I get this list of drug dealers in Guyana? You don't like me, oh? Yeah. So you want to mix me up in? I do in politics, not crime. Oh, yeah. You want to set me up? Whether I can or can't, I really have no interest. That's easy to get, man. Just go over at Freedom House and ask them who are their contributors.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. Good morning, viewers, both at home and in the diaspora. Mr. Amsterdam, honestly, I am not sorry for that young lady. This is a similar incident as to what took place in Buxton, whereby the friends of the PPP have a falling out. She supported them. She were very vocal about it. But what happened to her? She and one Indian doctor had a falling out at the hospital. And the government make a choice between Indian and black. She's African, and they make the choice to choose the Indian over her. So I'm not sorry for her. And I hope this be an eye-opener to all those African Guyanese who are supporting and enabling the PPP with their wrongdoing. Watch the creep up.
Thank you.
A blessed good morning to you, Kadaki. Kadaki, I would like you to get a list of the drug dealers in Guyana. I know you can. I'm challenging you.
They say, well, it's nice to play it twice. But that doesn't mean you act on it. Oh, Lord. Of what benefit would it be to me to get a list of drug dealers? By the way, y'all recognize, what's his name? I saw it in the news recently.
What about it?
Mohammed said that his Ferrari has been released by the U.S. government or U.S. authorities, whichever. And he also intimated that it was held because a lot of people made a lot of spurious claims and reports to the U.S. government about him. But he is, as I would say, vindicated. His Ferrari has been released. So y'all look out for the next Ferrari arriving.
And it's so true, Brother Kadaki, you know. And it's so true, but and it's so true, Brother Kadaki, you know. We always, when it comes to representing this right cause, we waiting on political
Hello, Moto.
leaders to do that. But you will see when it come to mash, or when hits and jam, get some kind of lawlessness. And you will see how people how they're going to deck out. Some of them save up and even got a proper roof over their head, but they would save up the piece of money and gone at a real unbecoming rate. And when they're done, they gone back home. And then they gone back on social media for say the talking and think. Let me tell you, something serious, something like, you know, like I don't know how to put it, but we as black people, I tell you, It's so serious. It's so serious for know that we can't. You could imagine how the Indians and them was just there, listening these programs and things and just laughing to say yes, they get we out of worry. And some we just willing just because a few pitons just willing to take the piece of riding by. I show you. You will see when they gonna come to mash and them kind of thing, how they would deck out and the big wind up and go on. Some of them will get maybe a 20,000 and a 40,000 taxpayers' money, and they will say the government doing good for them, doing good, and the quick for talk what the coalition been doing, how these people so disrespectful and so sinful to their own self. Some black people, what the coalition doing? What the coalition do? Imagine the coalition being in there and had to, out of 5 years, had 3 years, because two that had to suffer 2 years of the no confident motion.
Hello, Moto.
3 years they had. And these people so ignorant to their own self. Go talk what the coalition do when they been in there and do not. Imagine you got a mess for clean up, or a mess of 23 years for clean up. And this is the kind of ignorance. This is the kind of ignorance. While Jack Dio continuing to thief the money, Ifron continuing to thief, Mohammed's continuing to take the wealth at will. At will. The gold and the diamond and all kind of things smuggling out at will. And we just there. And we just there where we get a 40,000 and a 60,000. We feel great things do for we. Great things do. It's so sad. Black people, I tell you, I talking as a black man. We really doing bad to ourselves. We really doing bad to ourselves. I hope that all who listening this decide to tell we take a serious stock of ourselves and see what contribution we really making for it.
Good morning, Kadaki. The caller or the voice noter who was requesting the name of drug dealers in Guyana, did she listen to last Tuesday's program with Dr. Hines and GHK Lal, where GHK Lal is stated that it is the U.S. Embassy that is directing Soku where to go and look for drugs now? So who knows if that Buxton operation was part of an intelligence-led operation ran out through the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown.
Lines remain open. You're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. It is 16 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour on the 9th day of February in the year 2023. The lines remain open. Call and let's talk the thing. Send me your voice notes. Let me know what you're thinking. Join Dr. Hines this evening for Politics 101. It's what, Thursday? This week got legs, boy. This week moving with steam. And so too is the month. I know a lot of people want this week finished. Next week is Valentine. Oh, Lord, oi. Oh, I was about to tell you all about yesterday's. What did I?
Hello, Moto.
Went to court yesterday. The trial proceeded. There were 2 or 3 witnesses on the stand. There was some amount of cross-examination, some amount of circus taking place. And matter has been adjourned for the 24th. That's the day after matrimony. Right, so I am going back to court on the 24th. There's a possibility arguments will conclude then, or testimonies will conclude then, and then counsel most likely will make his case or no case. Let's see how that goes. Caller, thank you for holding your life.
Yeah, good morning, Kentucky, and to all the listening and viewing public. Now with the thing with GECOM, Mr. Alexander explained the rescinding of this person, Gittins or his name. And then he made startling revelations that with all they gave the like dog on the bone, they rescind that man. But I think now they are not allowing to have biometrics used at the elections. I think you might have to clarify because I may not have heard it properly. And when it comes to Glenn Lal and Freddie, Glenn Lal is a smart fish, and fishes are smart. Glenn Lal realized that whenever he feel real hurt of not receiving any of the oil blocks, he would get black people, Africans, to come and stand with him for how many days in the sun to protest. Where they call it them ain't going for protest, no, they don't protest. They only protest the sugar estate. So he now has got to safeguard his protesting population. And if Freddie Kissoon goes on his news entity to say that there is nothing like apartheid, blam, he losing the people who he was against just after the election when he did rooting for the PPP, like the doctor, he did rooting for the PPP. So he will forever look to have the stooges as black people to stand up with him to protest against the oil block. And that's the only thing Glenn Lal protests. He don't protest about nothing else. Now coming back to this guy we've been in front of the place looking down. You know, when in a place you must got sense to read through the lines. Dr. Henry Jeffrey was a known, a qualified doctor with all his years in front of him and behind him. We knew he was a certified doctor. Nobody's going to take that away from him. And Henry Jeffrey ascended the post in the PPP as a doctor. And he was like Saul, killing and destroying all the black people. Once he said, son, you come, you voted for the PNC, and he would gather it. That was his opening rhetoric with you. And he was there, and he was treated disdainfully. He had to run for his life. And this young doctor should have known that whatever the cause was with her, that she should never have taken that position which she took to blackball and blacklist the APNU. Because as you rightly said, when this thing happened, PNC APNU was being kicked out. And if Dr. Cummins could have told her, ma, for peace sake, do back this thing you passed, they would have think, and she should never have gone up it. And what she did there, I don't count her as a woman. The woman what I would always admire is the woman named Muhammad, not she. And there is where when I talk, everybody, they bring that girl without anything. They throw towel punch and say glad punch, she turned doctor. And now you got somebody who you send and you train for 6 years in Cuba and come back here, and that is how you defame her. Well, earlier in the tenure, they had a picture with the backball woman. You know who is the backballer? I don't know could use the backball like she. They had a picture where artists depicted a black woman with children kneeling down and begging her. And that is what this thing has done. She has degraded and pushed black people further in the mud, more than where they pushed the woman at Moko. And let me tell you something, Kadaki. I love the protest, but don't ever say, let me form a protest line and go and protest with the thing when they kneeling down in front of them. Let the PPP farm protest and big shop. Me would never go and protest shit. And nobody don't say let me farm a fund to give she nothing. She destroys herself. And even if she lost her work, I was a nurse. And I decided because of people going and carry news and causing problem at Ministry of Health. I walk off the job, Kadaki, and I go and I find employment. It may be degrading as a nurse, but you know what? It was an honest dollar. I didn't go into prostitution. And let me tell you that right about now, the dollars may come slow, but I like what I'm doing. And she, as a young woman, she should have looked at other avenues. She should have walked in a meticulous way and get out of this country. Somehow, make up your mind. You got to go the rule. The woman in America in the slavery days, I can't remember her name right about now, but she followed the North Star and she led a lot of slaves to freedom, following the, I think, Turma, whatever her name, following the North Star. And if it comes now that we got to start following couple North Stars to freedom, we must make up our mind, but we must never ever let another black person go in front of Ali or none of these things office and kneel down and beg. She wasn't going to kneel down in church. Kneel down and beg. She's a disgrace to us in this African month. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your call, Rhonda. 8 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. We can take another call. You tune to the Guyanese morning time. Let me see if there's any other voice note.
Hello.
Call it live. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kadaki. Good morning to the listener public. Now, I understand that this girl made a mistake. And, I mean, it's a big mistake, but we shouldn't come down on her so much because there are lots of other African Guyanese that keep making mistakes, right? And nobody seems to be doing anything or telling them about it. Now, I spoke about the Guinness Bar, of which there are lots of young black people just go and frequent every Friday nights and so on, right? And one of my suggestions is that there are lots of young girls going to that bar, those bars, and black girls. And I mean, where black girls, young black girls are, they must have young black men going there. So my suggestion is that if we could organize, like to get young girls who are part of the coalition to go around and speak with some of these guys, or to just throw the message out to them that we are in an apartheid situation and we need to get out of this, and we must be able to do something to attain our status in this country, right? And we have a lot of persons in the coalition, right, who are on this talk show. At least they could throw the challenge to the young girls out there to go and speak to some of their colleagues that we're in a situation and we need, to get out of this situation, right? I think Mrs. Lawrence, she was one of the champions of the young people and women in Guyana. She should be able to organize these things. I'm just saying. I might not be. I'm not correct, but I'm just saying. So we need to go out there and talk to the young people. We need to have a forum that they could understand that Guinness Bar is not all at the end of the day. It's St. James is not all at the end of the day. We need a better standing for feet in Guyana. So that's my contribution today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. It's now 5 minutes to the 9 o'clock. How are you tuned to the Guyanese morning time?
The fire burning red in a Georgia representing for Kams Tv. We got Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you going like Kams son. Red. Comes audio son. You burn the swine when no want you shine. The tree of life, them no want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Comes I say them heart no kind. Buxton.
Hello.
Call it live, good morning.
Good morning. You know, so you know the saying, sometimes you're smart until you're stupid. What if she took the idea of Colin Kaepernick kneeling at the football game and then saw the trend after that and think that she could come kneel down there? The two kneels is different purposes. Total different. And she needs a lot of help. She needs plenty help. I know right now she may be being in a serious psychological state right now, and she's gonna throw herself in depression. If she's listening to this show, she's gonna realize the wrong that she did. You don't need in front of them people. And same thing I was saying, shall you them get back in there, they're gonna beat black people into submission. And look what's going on. And it's not the first one that knelt. Not the first one. The big woman did the same nonsense too. I don't know what's wrong with people. As Ron said, they won't kneel in church, you know what I mean? But ready to kneel in front of the damn evilest people. Anyhow, that's my take.
Final call it live.
Okay.
Call it live, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Karaki, I saw that video with the lady begging, right? It's very emotional to look at. But a lot of people don't understand where she's coming from. When she says she's a slave and so on and so forth, it's a type of sarcasm. I don't think Guyanese understand being sarcastic, someone being sarcastic. She's explaining, hey, if this is what you want me to do, hey, I'll be a slave. She's not really saying, hey, she's a slave. She's sarcastic, and she's being sarcastic to send a message, hey, is this what I have to do to get a job? And a lot of people beating up on the woman. Hey, the woman got a child. When you got a child to take care of and feed, hey, guess what? You got to put pride aside, and you got to do what you got to do. Now, that's one way to do it, right? Embarrass the administration. And another way to do it is suffer and try and wait until you get the help. But when you got a child or you got children involved, come on, people. Don't beat her up. Give her a hand out. Help her until she can get, herself together. You know what I'm saying? So, sarcasm. That's what she was doing right there. So stop beating up on the woman. She's not saying she's a slave. She's being sarcastic. All right? That's my point. Later.
Thank you for your call. And this call nicely wraps up, quite frankly, what I was about to say. I think I can say it in my own words, though. Because the reality is, while a lot of us are angry or disappointed of the stance that the sister took, note I said it's sister. Yeah, Debbie is my brother. Who is this? Good morning. Just now, let me put you on here. Yes, Carlo.
Yes, the West Bank did not receive the public assistance since last year from Port Giant Center.
What you haven't gotten for last year?
They have the public assistance.
Okay.
Now, these people when I fill up the form, every half of the year, you forget it from July until December. And they have done all the work. And in all the tried to Miss Gray. And she knows that process everything. She said they went through the process, but no one is paid for the whole of the West Bank. That's it.
Thank you. So the people on the West Bank are awaiting their public assistance. They have submitted the necessary documentation, and they have not received their public assistance in the latter part of last year, and certainly not this part of the year. Yes, I'm saying, listen, all of us can stand in condemnation of the sister. She's a sister. She's a human being to start with. Every cow cry for calf. And if you want to see a parent hurt, yesterday I was chatting with a mother who said to me, if my child, my little child, my infant, is learning to walk and falls down, it brings tears to my eyes. They say, well, hot eye does make nose run water and vice versa. Parents, and I'm saying this one too, them say, cut mama and give picnic on yam. But cut picnic and give mama na go yam. All of those things are used to express in our own Creole way, proverbs and so on, how children are dear to their parents, especially mothers. A mother will do anything that is humanly possible to ensure that her child or children are taken care of, they're fed, they're comfortable. And so if this sister thought that in her heart the last straw she got is to kneel in front of State House and beg like a dog, prostrate herself, I can't fault her. Some of us are psychologically strong and mentally stronger, and we can deal with situations differently. But who feels it knows it, and she feels it, and she knows it. Not only is this sister faced with this issue of the PPP punishing her and keeping her out of employment and oppressing her by not giving her a license or release letter and so on, I'm sure she has several other issues to confront within the society, because Guyanese society and many of us are not forgiving, you know. I'm sure there are a whole host of people who might be looking at her on a daily basis and taunting her. It's what the PPP do for you, girl. You're bigging them up. Relatives might be involved in that kind of behavior too. You're cussing out the girls, the government, go let the PPP look after. Let us not pile coals on the head of this sister. Let us find the compassionate parts of us for the sake of our child. Think I be for she. But for the sake of humanity, we ought to call out the government for what they are. Wicked and vindictive, racist, they're apartheid. Black, white or green, she deserves to work. Black, white or green, she has a right to express herself as a human being. And so that is what we must address. I don't care who she supports. I always tell you this. I really don't care who people support, you know. I'm about good governance and fairness. If you're supporting wickedness, I'll tell you you're supporting wickedness. I will make no bones about that. But it's your right to support who you want to support. I can only say to you, I think you're making the wrong decisions. Let us not further chastise her. By now she might recognize the errors of her ways, but most importantly for me is, let us try to get help for the child. And if helping the child means helping her, so be it. This government must be called out for the wickedness. See you tomorrow morning. We'll host another program of Guyanese Morning Time. Dr. Hines has committed to being here tomorrow morning, if I am to invite him, that is, right? And so, I'm most likely going to invite him to talk about this and other issues. Y'all have a good day.
The fire burning red in a Joshua representing of a Kams Tv. Big up Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you go on like you like Kams son. Red. Kams audio son. You burn this wine when I want you shine. The tree of life, them I want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Kams I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive. Kidaki. Red Hat. Oh, one more, hold on, one more. Keep a fire burning, Regula representing for Kams audio son. Red.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money, I know what you can even money, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money, you can keep, you can even money. When you been a corrupt in a bill, tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill, tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. Now I know what you conniving money, never.
Naomi Drucker, you might have to go and listen to the entire program to get an understanding of what we were talking about. You can't practice as a doctor unless you have your license. The government is withholding our license. You can't travel out the country unless you get your release letter. The government is withholding our release letter. How then is she likely to